Hello, and welcome to the Bold Leadership Story Show, where we talk about the experiences shaping exceptional lives. And today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Michael Beardsley. And Michael was born in 1974. So you're coming up on the big 50, right, Michael?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, how's that feel?
I still am a little kid. I haven't really figured out how to grow up yet.
All right. All right. Yeah, me too. It's like I'm 65 and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up. I'm just
Yeah.
living, I'm just having fun. So good for you. Now, I'm excited about this little chat we're going to have with Michael here because he's a business owner, founder, entrepreneur, and he's doing some awesome service. In fact, I could probably use you if you were here in California. Um, you have a business called Dooty Free Lawns. So tell us
Yes.
about that business, Mike, and how that came about.
So in 2007, I was attacked by a boxer. I was doing outside sales and I got 7 stitches, four on my right, three on my left leg. And I just became terrified of dogs. I've always been a dog person. I wanted to figure out how can I force myself to be around animals again. And I started looking around. I was like, well, I'm not going to vet school. I'm not going I didn't really think of dog walking at the time. I found this little weird niche of picking up poop for people. And I was like, I've been complaining about that since I was 16 years old and I got my first dog. I've always hated picking up poop. I was like, well, I get someone to pay me for it. Well, let's try it. And so in October of 2007, I signed up my first client and I haven't looked back since.
Wow. Yeah. I've got memories. We had dogs when I was growing up, and that was my job. I was, the son. And so I mowed the lawn and had to pick up the poop. And um, yeah, it was just one of those things that you just got to get done. Uh,
Yep. The kids that act badly are my biggest competition. That's always their punishment is to go poop soup in the yard.
yeah. Well, it's good to be to have competition in some degrees, but it's always a challenge. You got to keep on your toes, right? So
Yes.
speaking of challenges, what were some of the obstacles that you had to overcome to get that whole thing going? And you've been doing
Um,
it since 2007, so I suspect that by now you probably got it wired pretty well.
no. It's always a learning curve. Uh, just learning to just kind of roll with it. Just I think the biggest thing for me was learning how to be by myself. Um, I was in a corporate structure. I worked for the city of Fort Worth for several years,
Uh-huh.
and so I always had people you could go when I got bored and I needed to be entertained. I could go talk to people.
Right.
But literally, as an independent owner and operator, I have you're in a truck by yourself, and you might see one or two customers a week, and learning how to it seems really silly, but finding poop in people's backyard takes a lot of concentration for about 5 to 10 minutes while you're in the yard. And learning how to be able to stay focused, but also be aware that if a dog's coming up behind you to try to snip at your ankles, usually the Chihuahuas are the most vicious ones that I've found. Um,
Right? They have no fear. They
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 don't.
they think they just have no concept of size.
No, mastiffs and Great Danes think they're the size of Chihuahuas, and Chihuahuas think they're the size of mastiffs and Great Danes.
Right.
So it's
So funny.
it's just and just learning how to put business systems in and learning the boring part of the business, talking about poop and making people smile and laugh. And that's the easy part, but putting system is I have a couple employees that run their own routes and generating more business, learning how to market, how to, um, what is it? The CEO, chief of everything officer. It's like you're always every single hat you got to figure out how to put on.
Exactly. Well, let me pull up your website here real quick. I want to show everybody your website. I love this. It's can you see that okay?
Yes.
All right, cool. So it's 1-800 dog poop and the only number you need for a poop-free lawn.
Yes.
I love it. You've got some cool videos on there and great testimonials, pricing, and your story. So uh, let's see, in the services you've got, we'll pull that up. You do regular service and year-round cleanup. You're in the Fort Worth area in Texas.
Yep.
So
Have
if
shovel
you're,
will travel.
if you, how much time do you spend on the road now? What's your route look like?
I'm usually in the car probably minimum 4 to 8 hours a day.
Okay.
And
So
so
you're
I
at
try
this.
to, yeah, it is definitely I'm always looking for more poop. As I said, I have two guys that work for me, so they're always asking for more money. So I'm getting them new customers, and we lose customers, add customers, and so the big mental shift this year is going to be learning how to get out of the truck and just become the business owner and just become more of an operator versus the guy out in the field. And so
Mm-hmm.
I've been putting pieces in place for that, and it's another opportunity to grow and to find the new challenges that come with filling up my day versus, you know, when you're working a schedule, it's easy just to go, okay, well, I do X, Y, and Z. But now that you're in an office, it's a different beast.
Mm-hmm.
And just learning to manage my time properly.
So what was you're thinking, the genesis of the idea to do this, and what kind of pushed you that direction? So you were working, you got um, attacked by a dog,
Yes.
and then some
My
time went
first,
by, and you decided that you wanted to conquer your fear of dogs. Admirable. And you
yep,
you chose this idea to be around dogs to conquer your fear. And so why this one? What was it about it in terms of a business aspect? What was it that you liked about it?
I like that there was very little upfront cost of machinery. It's a vehicle and some trash bags, and um, you can start an entire poop scooping business for under $100. So at the time, I didn't know what to do. I was like, well, I figured I'd just be a poop weekend warrior type thing. I was like, okay, well, I'll just do it on Saturday, and
Mm-hmm.
just make a little extra money and just kind of. And I started working with Legacy Boxer Rescues, that they actually foster the dogs in their home. And one of my first clients, she had an acre of land with 16 boxers and two Frenchies, and they had free reign inside and outside. So I quickly overcame my fear of dogs. I
How did you
think
do
I
that?
pulled.
How, what, I mean, I know, like, I used to be afraid of, um, you know, snakes and, and lizards, but I overcame that by catching them. I just, like,
Okay.
every time I saw one when I was a kid, it's like, oh, and I'd go catch a lizard in that challenge and then try not to get bit.
Yes.
And I love snakes and lizards now, but it was tough overcoming that fear. How did you, and you were, gosh, looking at your timeline here, you were probably in your mid 30s by this time.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Late. I think
I
like
was just a kid, pretty much, mentally just invincible. But by 30s, you started to get some rationality in your thinking. So,
Yeah, I that first acre lot, I ran my butt up against the lawn of the fence trying to get to the dogs. They're like, because they just want to play. They're just happy and excited. So
right.
it's not that they're being ferocious at the time. So it's like,
Well, and
so it's
they
like
can
I
sense
remember.
if you're afraid of them, they can sense that.
Yes.
Animals are
So I
really
just,
intuitive that way.
yeah. So I just kind of like, okay, and they would leave me alone. The boxers would be like bored because I wouldn't give them the entertainment. So I started interacting with the small Frenchies first,
Uh-huh.
and then as I they'd all come out at once, and then they'd go back in, and then like one or two would come out, and just as I kind of just was in that big yard. I mean, an acre with I can't even remember, like 40 or 50 bags of poop. It'd been a very long time since she's cleaned her yard, and so just being there and seeing all the different types of poop, which is kind of a random thing, is like you wouldn't think that they're all the same, but they all go to the bathroom different. And so
Hmm.
I learned very quickly how to get through a yard efficiently. I learned how to break up a yard and walk it. And I think the first time I was there for like 4 hours. And by the end, I could do the yard in about 25 minutes. And so just learning and forcing myself to breathe and just be like, okay, they're not going to hurt me. They're not here. There's nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They're not being aggressive. And so just constantly thinking of and keeping myself in the present and not allowing my fear to go back to where the dog that wasn't present that bit me, that dog was just not there.
Mm-hmm.
And so just I was like, okay, this dog who's in front of me, that's the dog I'm going to be aware of. And now it's really interesting because I can walk into any yard with pretty much any dog, and the dog automatically can feel that I'm there for a good reason.
Mm.
And even dogs that are like, oh, my dog's really aggressive. Like, oh, I've already cleaned your yard. Like, you did with my dog back there? Like, yeah, I just left it alone and did my thing, and he was fine. Like, he bites everybody. Oh, sorry to disappoint.
And he lets you go. That's amazing. So you kind of become a dog whisperer to some degree.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm that talented, but I find that the more comfortable I am with myself, the more the dogs are comfortable with me.
Mm-hmm.
And since I'm in so many different backyards, I'm sure I'm a buffet of fragrances for all the dogs. So like, this guy smells like a lot of dogs. He seems interesting. Maybe he's a fire hydrant. I don't know, but I want to get to know this guy.
That's good.
And so just, it's been a lot of fun. There's been really good highs and then there's been lows, and I'm back in the rebuilding and the regrowing of my business. And it's a, it's very tiring. It's very exhausting. It's a part-time job. You can work the first 12 hours or you can work the second 12 hours of the day. And it's like you're just always working and doing invoicing. Hey, your credit card didn't go through, always challenges and chasing and being a happy poop guy is not always easy. Because it's one of those things that everybody wants to talk about, but no one wants to admit they want to talk about poop. So I get people, they call me like, hey, can I tell you a poop joke? I'm like, yes.
Well,
It's like they see
what's
my
your
number, they
favorite?
call
What's
it.
your favorite poop joke?
Ah,
As long as it's clean. No, I don't care.
A
You can
A
say
went to
whatever you
the
want.
A went to the bathroom and came out as an E. What transpired in the bathroom?
Hmm. So A went to the bathroom and
Came out
what
as an E. Came out
came
as
out
an
as an
E.
E? What? I don't know what.
A vowel movement.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yes.
Thank you for
The
sharing.
the cheesier they are, the happier it makes me.
Yeah, that's good. A vowel movement. Good stuff. So what's your biggest challenge? You said you were going to be you're transitioning your business now. You're getting back into growth mode, it sounds like, and you want to create a situation, a business model where you don't have to be out doing the poop scooping all the time.
Correct.
So tell me about that. Tell me how that's going and what's the process you're taking to make that happen?
I'm actually in the middle of putting together basically a step by step of my day and having a procedures book. So that way I can hand it to all the people that I'll be hiring in the future, and just having procedures in place. So that way
Hmm.
they know that when they walk up to the gates, check and see if the dog's on the other side of the gates, and how to walk into the gate properly. Because, the worst dogs to try to interact with at a gate are huskies. They're very much gate chargers. I've only had two dogs get out on me in the all the years I've been picking up poop, and they both were huskies. So there's just something about when that gate opens, they want to run.
They bolt.
Yes, and they love to play chase. So it can take you an hour or two to get back in the yard, because you want the ones that are making you the poop to be in the yard so you can pick it up next week. If they're not there, then you're unemployed. And
Yeah, that's a good point.
so yeah, so our
Well, that's a good. That reminds me of the E-Myth strategy. Working, and
very
so
much
you've been spending more time working on your business instead of in your business.
Yep. So that's been the big shift for me lately. Just before I just come home, I do my route, come home and I'd be done, or I do a little bit of this. But now it's like I process my day, write everything down, and then try to put it in a simple step by step order.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that you would never think about when you're hiring for a pooper scooper is, are you colorblind? Because if you're colorblind, you can't see the poop.
Interesting. Wow.
It's
I would have never thought about that. Cause yeah, I guess green is, if you're colorblind for green, you don't see the green, right? Everything looks
yeah, it's
brown.
just yeah. And so it's just one of those things that one of my friends that's in the industry told me is like, because yeah, I heard a guy he's colorblind. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, yeah. And so I talked to other pooper scoopers across the country, and just share insights and stories and try to learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
So because there's a lot of independents and there's a bunch of franchises out there, and I'm one of the independents, and just
Okay.
trying to be successful and just keep building my own little poo empire.
I know a guy here in town that's in the Temecula Valley area that's he does window washing.
Yeah.
And so, and that's, it's a trade, right? It's a great business. It's a root job. He goes and he's got repeat customers and he goes around and does stuff. And um, he's a great guy. And but he started a podcast,
Oh
and
wow.
his podcast is focused on, he caters to the other window washers in his market. And so he talks about window washing on his podcast, and they trade secrets, they trade, ideas back and forth. And he gives away tools and techniques and stuff during his podcast, and that increases his audience. And and he has fun with it, and he's got a great audience for that. So that's it, just put a plug in your ear, maybe something you might
Yeah.
think about starting a podcast of your own to do that for
Talking
just your niche, right?
yep, talking crap, I guess.
Yeah, right. Just have fun with that, and think about what you could do to make their lives easier and better and more profitable. And
Definitely.
then
I like it.
once you have your audience, you can sell advertising and do whatever, get sponsors to events and do other things with it. But anyway, some little side note idea.
Yeah. No, my favorite company that I bumped into is there's a company here in the Metroplex that they clean grills. So these people go out
Okay,
and spend
barbecue grills.
yeah, so they have
Yeah,
their,
well, in Texas, I imagine that's a big deal.
yeah, you have $1,000 to $3,000 grill and you don't know how to use it or clean it. So these people come and they clean it and they season it, and
Uh-huh.
so you just start it up the next one for the weekend. So he's been doing it for at least 10 years that I've seen him.
Nice.
But it's just I love the idea of being an entrepreneur. I love the idea of helping people because we all step on landmines as we go through this experience, and
Right.
if you can point out and go, that area is bad, don't do that.
Mm.
That's what we're here to do, is help each other and share from the different pain points in our life to help people avoid those in their life. And
Yeah,
it's a
absolutely.
shortcut.
So who've been your biggest influencers?
um I would probably say a, a a woman named Charisse. She owns Yard Guard on Duty in Tampa, Florida. And when
Okay.
I first started, I reached out to her, and she was a wealth of knowledge and was somebody that kind of would help me. I remember I had this, I might have been like a year in poop scooping, and I had a customer. She would call me and she's like, don't come today. My husband's here. Like, okay. And
Okay.
so she sat there, and her and her husband went on a cruise, and like her poop, like all the dog poop is like covered in red. Like it's red. I'm like, this
Hmm.
doesn't look right. I'm taking pictures. I'm sitting to Sharice. She's like, I don't know. The housekeeper wouldn't answer the door. So I'm freaking out that these dogs are going to die.
Yeah.
Why this lady's on her cruise? And she gets back and she's like, "Oh, I told the housekeeper to put hot sauce on all the poop because they're eating each other's poop."
Oh
I'm,
my.
I'm like, okay, that heads up next time. I was like thinking it might be blood. I might, some kind of deadly disease. But no, it's just like, nope. Okay. So, but she's someone I could reach out to.
Or just
Um,
Cholula sauce.
yes, yes. But people like Robbie Cornelius, he's a guy on, he has a web asset group,
Hmm.
Bob Donnell, and just different
Yeah,
people that
Bob's
are,
great.
yeah, and just learning to be more present in my mind. And I've had a really good journey the last 6 months and have really grown my emotional intelligence. And it's probably
Interesting.
the most stable I've felt. I don't feel scared of of making mistakes and seeing a future where I'm successful. Because my growing up, it was a lot of you can't do this, you can't do that,
Hmm.
you're not gonna succeed. And overcoming that inner voice and critic has been very powerful. And listening to people that are in that industry that help you break down those untruths that you've been telling myself for years. And that's why I've been helping people make sure it's like, okay, what are you hearing? Are you talking to yourself during the day? Are you muting it with podcasts? What are you doing? How are you coping through your days?
Hmm.
Because when you're by yourself for 8 hours, it's sometimes, and you haven't seen anybody, it's like I would literally go to gas stations just to have a conversation with the person behind the counter, just so I would not be alone.
Mm.
And so those having people like that in my life have really turned that corner and given me a much more solid ground to move forward.
Yeah, I tell you what, that's a big deal. Being able to control your your self-talk. That it's amazing when you start listening to it. When I started listening to it, it's like, wow, I wouldn't tell my worst enemy that stuff, right? And you're just constantly berating yourself over silly things, and it tries to protect you when it doesn't need to. So and it
Yes.
gives you anxiety and it attacks you all the time. And once you figure it out, it's like, wow, what a powerful tool that is. And I've been just letting it go free, and it's been causing a lot of havoc because
Yes.
it was created when you were young, right? And
Yes.
it was needed at that time because it was there to protect you, and it
Yeah.
did a
I've
good
talked to
job
my,
doing that, right?
yeah.
But now it's not useful because you're no longer in those situations,
Yeah.
but
I
it's
tell my
still telling
kids,
you stuff. So
yeah. I tell
you
my
gotta
kids,
reprogram
yeah. I tell my kids to beware of the what if monster because it's
it.
always
Right?
replay. Well, what if this happens? Like, it's not. It's
It's
just,
not.
it's not
Yeah.
just. Well, what if that happens? It's not. Let's be real. What's the likelihood that a meteor is going to hit you as you're riding your bike down the hill? It's very small. Let's move past that and see what we can get down the road. And
Mm.
so just trying to pass that knowledge on to my kids and the other pooper scoopers that I mentor and help.
Hmm.
Um, it's a because that was something I never even really thought about until I started getting into the world of self-help and understanding um, how much more value I have, and that I
Absolutely.
want to share
Yeah.
that.
I started my awareness of that when I was in my 20s in sales training. And we learned about the reticular activating system, and we learned about self-talk, and I'll let how to reprogram it. And that you're actually, when you're reprogramming your self-talk, you're actually rewiring and changing your brain structure physically when you're doing that. And you learn what wires together fires together. So you're connecting new neurons in your brain. And the more you do that, the stronger those connections are. And your brain will take that path. Eventually, what you don't want fades away because you're not using it anymore. So yeah, it's a critical thing, but some people never learn it, or they've gotten so, like I got into complex PTSD training and post-traumatic stress disorder. And
Right.
that's taking those ideas and pumping it up a lot, and amazing healing that goes on when you start incorporating those ideas into your mix. And you think you're high functioning, but unless I believe that unless you go through that, even to some degree, just to understand what it is and to be aware of it, you're missing out on so much because you're being held back by your subconscious.
Yeah,
I believe.
I agree with you because it's trying to protect you from things that don't exist, and then you miss out on all kinds of wonderful opportunities, experiences because you're scared of the what if monster.
Yep.
What if I look silly? What if I do this? What it's like, well, no one's if you realize how little people thought about you, it would be
Right.
insulting. Yes. So
Yeah, exactly.
everyone's everyone's up in their own head thinking about themselves.
Yeah, right. It's all about me. It's all about me. Well,
Very much.
but it's not when you can overcome that and think about how you can help someone else and take you out of the picture. It makes everything better. So,
That's one of the reasons I enjoy your podcast is just sharing these types of stories and letting people know they're not alone. I mean, because that's the first step is recognizing and becoming aware that people are facing problems every day. It doesn't matter if you're in the corporate world, if you're an entrepreneur, if you have podcasts, we're all struggling with different pieces of our lives. And if we can just be kind to ourselves and love ourselves, that will allow us to be kind and love other people because we can only treat other people the way we treat ourselves. And if you have that negative voice running inside your head, how can you like anybody else? Because all you do is projecting your hate and anger towards yourself onto other people. And that self-love and that self-calming and that self taking time to meditate, taking time to slow down all the things that you feel are important that don't really mean much. As you said, I'm turning 50 next year. It's like I I still think I'm 21. It's like where did those years go? And the important
yeah.
stuff are the family and the kids
How
and the
old are your
memories.
kids? How many kids do you have?
I have five. So I'm at 20, 18, 17, 14, and 12. Four
Wow.
boys and a girl. And
Wow.
so
What a blessing.
my daughter's number two. So we it didn't matter after that. So we had one boy, one girl, then three more boys.
Oh, that's awesome. And they're at great ages too. Those teen years are so amazing. That's all
Yeah.
good, but it's like there's so many memories that I've got from my kids being that age, and they're gone now. My youngest daughter was just, said her vows and got married last weekend. So,
Wow,
and it's like,
congratulations.
but
Right.
it's not that. It's like I've got a new son-in-law, right? So, and
Yes.
it's true. He's a wonderful man. So I'm really excited for my daughter, and but it is
Yeah.
a turn of that page,
Yeah,
and
it's been nice because as I've been learning and growing with these insights, I'm able to share a little bit when they're ready. And when they
yeah.
ask different questions, I can answer them differently than I used to. And so I'm not replaying my family's history. I'm creating a new history with my kids and a different relationship. And it's like, that's an interesting choice. Why'd we do that? Instead of just starting to yell at them and be frustrated, it's like, huh. So what logical or illogical reason made you decide to stick your finger in the blanket? What are we doing today? Yeah. So, oh, I saw a thing on TikTok. Wow, let's think this through differently.
Yeah, this
And
thing.
so yeah, it's like I want to help you think and ask questions. I'm not poo-pooing anything. I'm just want to ask you a bunch of questions, and if you can answer them, then great. And
Yeah, I just want to
that's been the big
understand it.
shift. Well, I don't even know if I don't know if I want to understand. I want them to be able to explain why they're thinking because I never really was taught as a kid in school how to think. I was very reactive and it's like
Yeah, you
I'm
know
just going to
what?
do this.
I agree with you. They don't teach you how to think. I had to learn how to learn. That
Yes.
that was my big thing in high school. It's like I wanted to get into college and didn't have the grades when I was a freshman. And it's like, well, I got to learn how to learn. So,
Yeah,
and
I've
that
been
made me,
listening.
I had to learn how to think.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been listening to Bob Proctor. He
Oh,
has a book
okay.
called Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the last chapter of the book, he challenges you to listen to his book 30 minutes a day,
Uh-huh.
every day for 6 months or for 60 days.
Okay.
And it's just like, this is going to get you in the habit of studying a topic. You don't, because back when I was younger, I had probably listened to over 200 books.
Hmm.
And, I can regurgitate parts of them, but I never implemented them or applied them to my life.
Hmm.
But now that I've been doing this with Bob Proctor, it's like my brain's like, I'm bored, but it's like, oh, I'm picking up new pieces. I'm hearing different authors that I hadn't heard of before that he talks about all the time. And trying to understand how those people influenced him that got him to this point. And that's the beauty of this work and being around people like yourself and is to be able to communicate that let's learn to be able to educate ourselves and stop jumping to conclusions of what people's actions or their mindsets were. Just listen to them. And then if we don't understand, just say, okay, well, I'm the dumb guy in the room. I'll ask another question. I don't mind. And being okay with that. Because, I was always one of my triggers when I was younger is feeling dumb or looking dumb.
Hmm.
I'd rather just like nod my head and be like, yeah, 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 sure. It's like, I have no idea what I disagree to. And
Yeah.
now it's like, so what are we talking about? Where can you help me pretend I'm in the seventh grade? Help me understand that.
Hmm.
And it's it's been a great blessing in my life to be able to learn to apply all the things that I've gained and share those with my boys and my daughter so that they can have a greater joy in their life and realize that they can create the life that they want versus reacting to what they think they should do.
Mm.
And I think that's what everyone needs to know is that if you want to create a life different than the one you have, you can do it. You have the ability to change jobs, careers, futures. You're never too old because when you were 20 years ago, podcasting didn't exist. And here you are, you developing new skill, learning how to ask good questions and enjoy conversations. You know, it's never too late to change and grow and create the future you want to have.
Well said. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing. The time goes so quick. We've got time for one more question.
Okay.
I asked this question to everybody that comes on the show, and it's basically taking a look at your whole life. What was the boldest leadership decision that you've made so far, and what were the consequences?
Hmm. The boldest decision I made was not shutting down my company. Um, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was just pretty gone. I was lost. I was scared, and it would have been easy to throw in the towel and just go get a regular job and have somebody else tell me what to do. Um, but I think I would
How
have
long
stayed
ago was
asleep
this?
about 5 years ago.
Okay. And
So
what were you feeling at that time? You were scared and you were kind of maybe overwhelmed. What was that about?
just a lot of basically the what ifs. What if this person doesn't pay? Why isn't this happening? Why I just spent money on this marketing. Why isn't that happening? And
Hmm.
and it was a lot of, well, you should have started sooner. It's like, well, I'm going now. It's like, well, it's too late. You should give up. And a lot of just that negative self-talk.
That was
Uh,
going on in your head. It was okay.
yes. and I did not know how to turn that off.
Okay.
And so and I ended up finding Brene Brown. I think it was the first person that kind of talked about spiraling and um, how the emotions are different masks that we're wearing. And it kind of started to wake me up. And the last 5 years have been very difficult. Um, but it's led me on a journey that is allowing me to help myself, my family, other business owners, and the impact is going to go on for the legacy when I leave with my kids and my family. And it's because I finally got control of my brain, and that's the first place we need to get leadership, is learning how to make those decisions and be able to stop and think and to slow down. And I was always running and trying to put out fires that did or did not exist. And just always in a hyped up, anxious mode. Um, and I was defeating myself on a daily basis, just feeling lost and alone. And now I'm reaching out to people like yourself and making new friendships all over the country, and connecting and sharing the joy that I found in poop.
Well, I love it. Who would have known that, meeting someone through a friend that's whose career is picking up poop would have so much to say about, human success and being real and communicating and understanding how things really work. But yet being on the edge, in the mix, on the coal face, as they say, out in the field, doing the real work. And then, and then having to raise kids and take all the stuff that baggage that you've had in the past from previous careers and growing up, and shedding it and pulling in new and growing from that. And you thought overcoming your fear of dogs was going to be tough.
Yeah, this is definitely a life journey that I'm excited to continue to avoid the piles.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing, Mike. I appreciate it. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you today on the show.
You as well. Thank you for the opportunity to share some of my insights.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again another time.
Sounds great.